What's going on, everybody? What does that even say? I don't even know. I can't read that quick. Wow, it's really education is important, but wrestling is importanter. Yes, it is. Right here on a new episode and edition of the Wrestling Hour. Dave Sturchio alongside Josh Shernoff here on a beautiful Wednesday morning. It is April the 9th as we record this, and we want to thank everybody on ad-free shows for checking us out early, and of course all the viewers on the old YouTube on MyFandom. More things to come on MyFandom's front. But you know, it's so funny. I always watch the video because I feel like there's so many Easter eggs in that opening video that you put in there that I never see, right? Like I usually see one clip, I'll see me, you, and Rhea Ripley, and then I'll see something else, and then there's the clip of you trying to escape the cage, and I haven't seen that yet. That's so great.
Yeah, those are good times. That was last year.
Last year, time, Josh. This time, like literally a year ago, like yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago.
It doesn't feel like a year ago, but it also doesn't. But it also feels longer at the same time. Like it's weird.
Yeah, you know? It's why? Because we do a lot of stuff. We do a lot of
we
stuff.
Do.
That's the thing.
We do a lot of stuff.
We do, and you can find us over on Triller TV Talk, brand new pilot series that launched on Triller TV. Go check those guys out. And those guys, I mean us. A lot of fun talk about AEW and Dynasty, and that's the AEW show that we do. The WWE coverage that we do is right here on the Wrestling Hour. And Josh,
but I will say, I will throw in a little bit. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but not sorry enough not to do it. I will say that my time in AEW this past weekend, because in this show we have a little bit more time, or what they call lack of structure. But man, it was awesome. You know, I was talking to Calvin about it because we were always from day one ish. We were always uncertain whether or not we were
fucking acknowledging, like,
yes, whether I acknowledge. We were always uncertain whether or not we were big fans of AEW, or in the beginning, or if we were just like homers, like we were there from the beginning, from the first pay-per-view we were working backstage to the first Dynamite. You know, I hosted the pre-show, and then the third Dynamite was in Philly at the Leocor Center and all that stuff. So we were there so much, and all the pay-per-views until the pandemic. So it was always like, are we fans of AEW, or are we just like, these are our guys? Like, we're rooting for them no matter what. And that question was answered for us post-pandemic when we went back. And the whole atmosphere was different. The whole vibe, back in, I guess it would have been like 2021, 22, something like that. The whole vibe was different backstage. It was quieter. There wasn't a lot of energy. It was really just kind of uncomfortable. And we very much felt like outsiders. It was very weird.
How was the vibe this past weekend?
Vibe this past weekend was phenomenal.
It does seem like they're coming into a little bit of a stride here. You know what I mean?
And that's why I think it's important, because, you know, you go on the internet and you see all the negatives about WWE as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the negatives. And being there in person, I felt the negatives a few years ago. I could feel it. And I'm not going to blame it on CM Punk. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, because I also, anytime I saw CM Punk there, he was always chatting it up with you know, the younger guys and stuff, and being very helpful and stuff like that. So I won't buy into, you know, just, you know, he was pure evil in those moments, at least. But man, it was just a nice mix of this veteran talent, these producers, the you know, all the brains behind the scenes. And then you had all the young guys there that were just chomping at the bit, and the energy. And that reminded me so much of the original AEW. And having the opportunity to talk to Will Ospreay, having the opportunity to talk to Kyle Fletcher, which I'd never met either of them before. So that was really awesome too, to see these guys who are just, and Kyle Fletcher's like what, like 26,
He
something like
looks like a
that.
baby.
Like
Yeah, he's very young.
he's so young, has, as he put it, decades in front of him. And
Jesus.
I just feel like there is AEW has an opportunity to be on the upswing now with the talent that they have. And I think people, if you're listening or watching this and you like how I had been checked out of AEW and said, I'm not feeling this. This isn't for me. I don't blame you, because it wasn't for me. And I tried to get back in a couple of times. I can
Mhm.
tell you past weekend, I was literally going to say this and didn't even mean it as a pun. I was going to say I was all in. I
Well
was.
played.
I felt really. Uh, I was excited to see what I was seeing in the ring there. The
Yeah,
heart
dude.
going on, and more so backstage, the care that was going on to the presentation. That it was, you didn't have a bunch of people that were sitting around like, dude, I don't care. I'm just gonna phone it in. No, there was, I mean, everyone was dialed in. And so uh yeah,
I have a
get
theory. I have a theory as to why um talent might be more inclined to sign with AEW rather than the WWE structure. Now, spoke to a AEW executive yesterday, just chit chatting about the talent, about the guys that are on the come up. I told him, I was like, man, Kevin Knight, my God, that guy belongs, right?
I
Like,
will say I got to meet Kevin Knight after his match, and I just wanted to tell him, like, hey, introduce myself and just say, like, I really impressed with what you've been doing. Uh could not find a nicer guy. Could
yeah.
not find a more humble guy. Um
I also reached out to
love to see that.
yeah, I also reached out and spoke briefly to Speedball Mike Bailey, because we were in negotiations once upon a time to try to get him on a Fight Factory show. And so the DMs were open, so it wasn't like I was a stranger. Like, hey man, good match. He's like, yeah, okay, weirdo. Like he knows who I am. And that triple threat match is just, the cardio of these guys, the storytelling. Believe it or not, I know the longer the show, or not just the show in general, but the longer the match goes, the more you're like, okay, when, like, what's the big, what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
there's
that
more
had
false
me,
finishes than I think
well,
ever
I
in
right,
a
but like,
match.
and usually I would complain about that, but this time I was like, oh man, don't end on that, don't end on that. You know what I mean? Like, I was
Yeah.
like, I wanted more, and maybe that is like a turn of the tide for AEW, because I've been sort of out on AEW as well.
Mhm.
But I say all that to say that, think about the path that you have to go to get to television for both companies, right? WWE, there's now WWE ID, NXT, LFG, like all these different avenues just to get on television. Now, remember, if you're watching LFG, which I'm out on it, unfortunately, I've
I'm
just
out too. I couldn't
I
stand it.
stopped
It's
watching.
fake. It's so fake.
Yeah, it seems very
I
scripted,
couldn't
and it
stand it.
just makes, yeah, for me, it's just, I'm out on it. But anyway, there's a multiple roads to go down until you're a star on television.
Right.
With AEW, if they pluck you off the independents, much like they
Yeah.
did Speedball Mike Bailey,
Welcome to TV. Yeah.
welcome to TV. You're in. You're like,
Oh, and by the way, welcome
Megan
to
B.
pay-per-view
Right,
with
Megan Bay's too.
Ricochet and Kenny Omega.
Right, and title matches, and like, you know
And
what
he
I
and
mean?
I
Like,
talked about, we talked about that, and I think I mentioned that on the Triller TV talk show.
mhm,
But um, in catering, I saw Mike Bailey, who obviously, we've interacted in the past,
yeah,
at GCW shows and stuff like that. So just saying hello, and I asked him, I said, "How long have you been here?" Because it feels like you just got here like a week or
I
so
know.
ago. And he's like, "I think it's been like 3 weeks." And I was like, "Buddy, I
They
mean, you're wrestling Kenny Omega and Ricochet at a pay-per-view
and
3
it's
weeks
like,
after signing with the company." And he's like, "Oh, I know."
you know
Like,
what it is,
it's not lost on him, you
to
know?
put it in like perspective. It's like, you know, like a sip, like of black coffee, right? It's like, oh, there we go, But AEW, when they get new talent, they chug it. and they go, and the caffeine spikes, and you are on your friggin' way. So, kudos to AEW. They did a great job.
It was my only critique. My only critique, which
getting home at 3 a.m.
I got home after 3. Yeah, it was. I was sitting at one point, and I said to the werewolf sitting behind me, there was I got up at one point to film, right?
Yeah.
And I came back, and there is a gentleman sitting in my seat, because we had seats like available to us if we wanted to sit.
I know exactly who this is.
And just this, I mean, I can't say who it is for sure, but it was just this guy with a brace on his right arm.
Bad boy,
and he showed up right around the time, just a little before the Megan Bain match,
right.
if but and he just had a luchador mask that was kind of like a wolf / Chewbacca looking thing. And so anyway, we chatted a bit. But no, I made a point at one point. I was saying, like, if Swerve Strickland and this isn't the only time this has ever happened, for sure. But I was just saying, like, if Swerve Strickland wins, right, which he didn't, but let's say he would have won. I said, I was like, in the history books, his championship reign would have begun the day after the pay-per-view where he had the match. Because his match began at like 11:51.
So he crossed over into the next day.
I mean, he literally would have become champion on Monday morning. Like, that would have been his reign. And
It's
go,
so funny.
He started Monday morning. Well, what was the match? Oh, it was that match on Sunday.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
and it's just,
that's crazy.
So to me, the show, there wasn't a match that necessarily needed to be cut, because I think every match was great. I think the show could have started earlier.
Cut completely or cut on time?
Completely, I mean. There were some I'm sure could be cut for time and stuff like that.
If you start that pay-per-view at 7:00, it's a different ball game. You know what I mean? Like, starting at 8 o'clock,
it's still a late night, but it's not
right.
It's not the same.
Right. It's not the end of the world to stay up that late to watch a pay-per-view. In fact, through full transparency, I fell asleep during right before the triple threat match, and I got a tug on my toe from my wife who doesn't really know anything about anything when it comes to wrestling, and she goes, "Hey, I think the main event's about to start. Don't you need to see this?" And I was like, "Oh, what?" Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, of course. Yes, I do."
Fun fact: I also fell asleep, and Calvin tugged me on my toe. No, I mean, the show was
it was
great,
long, man. It was long, but it was entertaining to say the least. And I got to give it to the fans of Philadelphia. The same amount of fans that were there in the beginning were the same amount of fans who were there at the end. And the same amount of fans making the noise. So,
and I will say, like, I was concerned at one point. I said to some of the people I was with, I was like, man, I'm worried. It was during the Adam Cole match. I'm like, an hour ago, they would have been insane for what was going on in the ring. They were exhausted, not just how late it was. When you have a card with that much talent and that many good matches and emotionally exhausting matches, dude, you only have so much screaming you can do.
I know.
And then they kind of like saved it a little all for the main event. But and I will say, with the main event, the people who are bitching and moaning and complaining about the end and all that stuff, I want to speak specifically. Hey, Mark, dude, I'm angry. I'm not angry because they're bad guys. No, you're angry because they got the emotion out of you that they wanted. They wanted to ruin.
You mean
you wanted Swerve Strickland to win?
Pissed off the fans, aka a heel.
Yeah.
Shit. Shame on them.
People don't understand sometimes that, like, they're like, no, I'm really pissed off because Swerve Strickland deserves or whatever. It's like, dude, you're getting worked the way people always got worked. They just have to do it in a slightly different way because everybody thinks that they know how, the bread is baked. So now it's a different, and I see that in WWE as well and other promotions too, where people are just like, no, I'm just really pissed because they shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have done that. It's like, well, yeah, man, that they're now working you with the idea of like, oh, the fans want this. Guess what? That's exactly what happened back in the day. You just had a different expectation of what was planned and what wasn't.
Right.
So, you know.
Well, like I said, hats off to AEW. Great pay-per-view, long pay-per-view, but very, very well done. We've said this plenty of times. Is everybody wants to complain about the bad of any given company? You know, we choose here to emphasize the good, and the good was the wrestling, and the wrestling was very good at that. So, bravo to AEW. Tony Khan, take a bow, sir. You delivered. You delivered very, very well. So we'll see how they dial it up tonight. Right away, and this is the part that kind of frustrates me a little bit, is that, a lot of people look at AEW like, it's just a glorified indie, right? With no stories, and they're just matches they're throwing together, and who gives a shit about this and that. And they kind of did it again, and I'm seeing like announcements from AEW's social media where there's just like matches that are just thrown together tonight, right? And I'm like, damn it, like you just had me hooked on a certain storyline, and now Swerve Strickland is taking on some, and it's passing me by memory wise, but he's just in a singles match with somebody that he's Pac.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, but that's
great match.
I mean,
great
it
match.
makes sense.
It's going to be.
Pac did get involved in the main event in a way as part of the Death Riders, and so it's kind of an opportunity for Swerve Strickland to get some of his frustrations out.
Yeah, I get it. I just
on the Death Riders.
I don't think, and I think WWE is starting to do this too. Like, there's no more elements of actual surprise with these weekly television shows. You know what I mean? Like on Raw, and you will see this. CM Punk's in the building. This guy, we will hear from Paul Heyman. We will do this. We will do that. This match. And I'm like, dude, can't we just start the show and all of a sudden CM Punk's music hits? That'll get you the bigger rise. Like, we all know he's going to be there, or whoever, Roman Reigns, like whatever. Just give us a little bit of an element of surprise. Like, Dynamite should absolutely 1000% start with the Death Riders. Have to, right? You have to go and pick up, and then the Bucks, and then you have a face-off, and then you wonder what's going on with what. Carry that story. You could build this shit to something at the greatest of heights because of who's involved in this stuff, and they have an opportunity to do that. Will they do that, or will they start it with an Owen Hart Memorial match? Like, maybe, I don't know, but like, I just think that the fans are right there. I'm you know what? I'm speaking about me specifically because I was out on AEW for a while. I didn't watch any of their programming, right? I was like, clips and watching my friends and Bowens and Caster and all the MJF, these guys that I know. I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see what they do. But miss me on the rest. But now I'm just like, all right, you got me. Can you hold me? Right. So we'll see. We shall see.
We'll see.
Gosh. But yeah, we are knee deep in WrestleMania season. Next week, Josh, boots on the ground as part of Triller TV, will be there for WrestleMania week. We can say WrestleMania week on this program. We have to say Mania week on the other program. That's just the way things
just
work.
over here trying not to get sued.
Legalities. It's just like the Super Bowl because there's a lot of like radio
big
stations.
Game.
The big game, right? It's like, what do you
big
come
game?
On,
but we know what it is. It's wrestling. Look, WWE steers the ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
WWE is if they are the ones, if their tide is rising, then all ships come up. And I'll see how many other ship analogies I can come up with. But but WWE is, look, they're the biggest game in town. You want to pretend that they're not, you're insane. It doesn't, Meltzer, it doesn't matter. They're, they're the biggest thing in the entire world. They're their own universe. But
one guy,
WWE
needs to be straightened out. But yeah,
WWE is, what's so great about it. And some could argue, and we've talked about this back and forth on the show before, that some can argue, okay, is it, is WWE being magnanimous to the independent scene, or is WWE saying, "Ooh, that's kind of hot. I should be a part of it"? Well, either way, who cares? Because WWE is, if they're leading the pack here, everything else is going to rise along with them. And that's what WrestleMania week has become. GCW for years now has taken advantage of that, to the point where now I mean, they're just right on in there. You've got Pete Dunne.
Same
You've
thing
got
with, like, I used to say that all the time, like WrestleCon, right? WrestleCon is everywhere where the big events are, right? Like that's just the way it is. GCW was following suit. It was like, okay, WrestleCon's going to put on all these signings and stuff, right? And maybe one event. Why don't we do something, right? So they're just capitalizing on the crowd.
Yeah.
You know that Vegas is going to be flooded with wrestling fans. So it's like, you know where to capitalize. And this time WWE was like, hey, you don't have to capitalize. We're gonna work with you. It's like,
Yep.
what?
Yeah.
You know,
Maddie
so that's where we are.
Neidhart's going to be there.
Right.
Killer Cross,
Crazy.
Karrion Cross is going to be
Crazy. Also, sidebar, real quick.
Yes.
Have you noticed? And I think Chris Van Vliet pointed this out weeks ago, but I'm starting to take real good notice about the Karrion Cross stuff that you see, like on every week on Raw, huh?
Is it about his hair?
Yeah.
That
how his hair is done.
Wears
it like the guy he's talking to.
Yeah, I saw that.
Dude,
I didn't pick that out myself. I saw someone else
had
pointed that out.
Shit. And I
also
realized,
saw
like,
someone pointed another thing out, which has now become really fun to watch. Seth Rollins, every single week, his name lower third and his entrance video and lighting match whatever clothing he's wearing. Whether it's his wrestling gear, whether it's street clothes, it doesn't matter.
They change his Tron
every single week when he
You know
comes
what?
to the ring. Does not matter if he's wearing, today he's wearing purple and green. His entrance is purple and green. If he was wearing gray the last week, his entrance was all like gray and silver.
That's very interesting.
Every single time he comes to the ring. And I think that is so cool because that shows the extra effort that is being put in by WWE and by Seth Rollins and by Karrion Cross.
Karrion Cross, yes. I have to bring this up to you because you are a presentation guy like myself. You appreciate good production, right?
Love it.
Since we grew up in a really great era, right? With the Attitude Era and everything spiking there. How lazy have the Trons got? Like, dude, it used to be highlight after highlight with your name flashed in with some cool shit, with some great things. Now it's your name.
So here's what I'm going to say.
And that's it. Like,
here's my take on that. Cause I actually have a lot of thoughts on that.
Cause your freaking Tron that you made for me for the showcase was more than WWE's ever done. And I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah, look, I got the opportunity to make one for Karrion Cross and then never got to use it. And I was so pissed because I had the opportunity to use it at Ric Flair's last match and was like, nah, just let him use the MLW one because I'm going to save mine until next month when we do it at the Wrestling Showcase.
And then he's plucked.
And then he went to WWE and we never got to use it. It was such a cool Tron. I love the one that I made for Jacob Fatu. I mean, I'm telling you how great my stuff was. But,
not for nothing.
But hey, watch Ric Flair.
Yeah. Not to cut you off, but post them. Yo, here's my custom Tron. I guarantee, dude, those things will buzz big.
Ric Flair, for those who aren't familiar with it, I made the Tron for Ric Flair for his last match. I made Jeff Jarrett's for that match as well. And then I was asked to make a bunch of, there you go, the little strut. I was asked to make a bunch of like random ones, and some of them I made literally 20 to 30 minutes before the show started. So those weren't necessarily my best, but yeah, to me, the Tron sets the tone. It's why it stands out to me with the Seth Rollins one. I get what they're doing now. If you look at it, they don't really have a Tron anymore.
Just their
they don't
logo.
have that they don't even have that second level of screen. They now just have the part with the name and everything. And I think the concept behind that, if I had to guess, was we want the focus on the wrestler.
Fine.
That's the backdrop to them. Having said that, dude, I love me a good Tron.
Dude, do you remember?
My thing. I love it.
Do you remember when The Rock went Hollywood first? And it was a helicopter ride, and you're just like, what's next? It's
that was a long intro,
nothing.
too.
And the big show, it was, right, and you got the friggin' thing crashing through the thing. There was just so much production put behind it, and then maybe you're right. Maybe they're like, Vince at the time was like, no, focus on the abs of Finn Balor, right? It's like,
yeah,
okay,
I mean, and look, I look at it and I wonder, like, because there are a couple that stood out to me, like Logan Paul, one of the only ones that has,
there you go, or whatever.
he's one of the only ones that has clips in his.
That's true. Good call.
I will
He
say
probably got his
AEW
editing team to do it. He's like,
AEW
hey,
is
man.
similar to AEW is similar to how WWE is doing it now, but I do think it's one that I've always liked. AEW's screen, their screens have always been good. MLWs are awful, just awful, absolutely awful, to the point where the guy who made them was commenting at Ric Flair's last match while they were showing the ones I made. And then they started playing, like, while they're testing them out earlier in the day. And then they start playing, like, the ones he made. And he's like, oh, man, I don't want mine showing up after yours. And I'm like, yeah, hire me. They did not.
No.
But
they
did. That's not actually true. They kind of did. And
they loosely did. And then never.
That's a fun fact. Offered me a job. And then the guy who offered me a job got fired. So, so that never worked out. But
what movie is that? Oh, well, it's not. It's Rudy.
It's My Life.
No, it's Rudy. Rudy was promised to suit up, and then they fired the head coach, and the new head coach came in. They're like, "Hey, is Rudy still going to play?"
You know what's funny though? I remember when the entire locker room of MLW, one by one, just handed in their jerseys. You know,
this one's for Shernoff.
Yep. So
and then you got like Jacob Fatu in the locker room, like Sherney. Sherney.
Oh man.
Oh,
hey, my daughter went to school today. I took a picture. I'm gonna send it to Jacob Fatu. But the kids today had to wear something that you love.
I love Mexico.
Well, she loves Jacob Fatu.
Oh,
and she's trying to figure out, she's like, well, I would love to wear something for wrestling, but I don't have any, because she sometimes gets like pissed that she doesn't have the same stuff that like my son has. But I told her, I said, well, that's because he kind of fell in love with it before you did, right around the holidays. So that's why he has a bunch of shirts and stuff. But so she's gonna have some stuff. We're getting her a Chelsea green shirt and stuff like that. But yeah. So, which, by the way, Chelsea green, just the freaking best,
dude. I've never seen, like, again, when she first got back, and then they tried to pitch this Karen character, right? I'm just like, it'll do okay. Like, it'll be fun. She's the best thing about SmackDown lately. Like,
she's so
every time
so
her
good.
And her security, or what it got,
Secret Hervis.
Secret Hervis.
Secret Hervis.
Dude, who came up with that? Like, that's
I don't know,
funny.
but whoever did, it's tremendous.
It really is,
and she's doing a great job. I'm just such a huge fan of her,
dude. She gets
both the character and the human being. She's
cosplayed more than anybody else. Like, that, you go to any other thing and everybody's dressed up to the nines in Chelsea gear, and it's like, whoa, man, like, good
absolutely.
For you. Running that
family,
so
my daughter though, so I said to her, I was like, well, listen, I was like, I have a shirt that Jacob gave me to give to you guys a couple of years ago. It was the smallest one he had, and you guys could have used it as like a blanket, So I was like, but let's see. So, she's a girl, so she tied it all up with like a little, whatever. And she's wearing like a Samoan werewolf, like 5-year-old t-shirt type deal. And wore that to school today. So
I hope she super kicks somebody right in the face during lunch, like,
I hope so.
What'd you get, Sally? Pink. Just light her up.
Yeah, no, I hope she does.
And just do the fucking, just all the fucking mannerisms that Fatu does.
Yeah, my 4-year-old runs at me like every day, just runs and jumps forward and smacks his leg and goes super kick.
My 3-year-old saw the spear from the other day from
holy crap.
And All of a sudden, he's across the room. I'm like, come here, Miles, give me a hug before you leave. He's like, ah, and he comes charging in. I'm like, oh shit. Like, do I brace? Do I sell? Do I?
It's
What do I
it's
do?
crazy.
I
That was a
love it.
crazy spear.
Dude, shout out to Carlito. Like, to take
Yeah.
that and to make it look as good as it did. Because listen, I used the spear when I was active in the wrestling business, right? I used that. So it's really about who can take it the best. Like, there was some guys that I spear and they would like fall on their ass. And I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Like, just take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's guys like
not everyone's gonna be Ziggler, but like,
right,
know,
but like,
but
Eddie Spaghetti, Eddie Franken, who's a NXT referee. He was one of my final singles matches. I folded his ass up like a lawn chair, right? And it was like the greatest spear I've ever hit. And I'm like, I didn't do shit. You know, it was all about how he took it. So Carlito, to take it like that at his 22-mile-per-hour bolt to the ring, like, insane. imagine being Carlito in that situation, right? Like, you're just like, all right, here he comes.
I would have been screaming like a girl. Yep.
Yeah, like, just not ready for it. Speaking of WWE, as we're rolling and rambling here today, last night I did stay up. I don't know why I stayed up. I think I was in a weird just watch TV mood, and I just wouldn't go to bed. And I caught Jimmy Fallon. I never watched the Jimmy Fallon show, but I saw that our dear good friend Triple H was on it. And great
was he
interview.
Really?
He was on it last night, and I watched it. Great interview, great segment. Jimmy Fallon had pulled no punches when it came to his history and his lineage and how he started in the pro wrestling business as Mr. Terror Rising. And they showed his 8x10, which got the fluffy blonde hair. It's the greatest thing you've ever seen. And then they showed a promo of him being Jean-Paul Levesque. Yeah. And him trying to be French.
That French accent.
Dude.
Right? Wasn't it like Ric Flair's like, you're French, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I mean.
Go over there and practice French for a second and cut a promo. And he's like, dude, he was so bad. So bad. And
but you know what, man? Like, as a kid, like, I would have been like, oh, those French guys. Like,
that's true, dude.
What the hell do I know?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't sit there and be like, oh, he's not French. You know, like,
I was just telling someone the other day, we were talking about something like that. I thought the first time I heard a Canadian other than Bret Hart, I was like, oh, he kind of sounds like Bret Hart. Like, I didn't think, oh, Bret Hart has a Canadian accent.
No, yeah,
I thought that's how Bret Hart speaks. And then, that's weird. That guy also speaks kind of like Bret Hart. Oh, this entire country speaks like Bret Hart.
I was like 20 years old when I realized that Yokozuna wasn't Japanese.
Oh, so it's like, did you ever watch his? If you want to go on, I was going to say the network, but I don't know where. I guess on if you want to take out the cock and the peacock.
Oh, okay.
And if you want to dive into it, like an episode of The Boys, look. Terrible. That was the last episode I watched. It was too much for me. But anyway,
The Boys. Yeah. I fell out of that too. I was just like, this isn't.
It was like anymore. It was a little much.
A little bit.
But anyway, so no, if you want to watch Yokozuna's induction into the Hall of Fame, he was inducted by Jimmy and Jay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I don't remember what Mania was. I was there live though at the Hall of Fame. And I just remember their speech and their story of the first time they saw him on TV as Yokozuna. It was just hilarious. So, you know, cause this is their cousin or their uncle or their whatever I can't.
So they know for a fact that he's not Japanese.
Yeah. But they thought he was, because they're seriously like, wait a minute. Like, they thought like they never knew.
Oh, they were in the dark.
This was like, oh man, I didn't know. I know Rodney was.
I didn't know Oos was Japanese. You know, it's funny though. I think we've brought it up in some WrestleMania discussions how WrestleMania 9 was one of your favorites, right? Mm-hmm. Dude, they're doing an entire documentary on WrestleMania 9.
Yeah, when's that coming out? Like in 2 days, right?
You'd assume that it has to come out before WrestleMania.
I think it's coming out in 2 days.
That's going to be good. We'll review that next week if we both get a chance to watch it.
And you know where I'll be next week?
Mania week. We
I'll be in
discussed.
Las Vegas.
I know we discussed this already.
I know, but I'll be in Vegas.
I know. I'm sitting at home and just counting my blessings. And no, I'm very proud of you, and I think it's going to be awesome that you're there.
Yeah.
Because again, we did it our way last year, baby. We did it our way last year. We just went for it, and now a year later, you're getting flown out.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. What are we?
It's not like you're not getting like it's.
No, I know. I just the schedules conflict and this, that, and the third.
I don't want people thinking it was like we're like, hey, and Dave, and they're like.
No, I literally spoke again to an AEW executive yesterday, and I said I have to gain their trust a little bit to show that I'm, all in. No pun. But I was like, my goal would be to be out in my favorite state, Texas, for all in coverage. Who knows? But anyway, so I brought up Triple H for a reason because now we have about 20 minutes left in the show, and we had spoke on text, and you brought up a really good point that every single superstar you've ever watched who is now, the pinnacle, Hall of Famer, whatever, has gone through some kind of gimmick change, some evolution of the process of what his final product was. And I really sat and I thought hard about the only people, like the only wrestlers that are like some of the most popular wrestlers of all time that never changed anything and stuck with the same thing the entire way. The only person I can come up with, and it wasn't, and I was wrong, clearly. I was like, well, The Undertaker. And I'm like, nope. They went American Badass on him. Like there was no, that's the change. Is there any wrestler out there that is like The Rock? No, because he started off as the blow tripper, you know what I mean? And then he turned into The Rock.
Bret Hart, you could argue.
Bret Hart.
Bret Hart from the Hart Foundation was the same Bret Hart from, his gear, he got new gear, but how much new? Bret Hart pretty much was Bret the Hitman Hart.
Well, when he went into WCW, he didn't change. He went very like jorts, leather jacket, but I guess that's always been his thing too.
It was always his thing. That was his thing in WWE too.
Yeah,
no, he was wearing his. That was only his like last couple matches where he was wearing the jorts and the stuff like that. And that's because he was doing the NWO thing.
Everybody was doing the NWO thing at that point.
Yeah, that was like 2000. Like nobody wore actual wrestling gear.
But it's crazy when you think about like.
I think Bret might be like the only one that jumps out at me.
The Bushwhackers.
Well, they were the sheep herders originally.
Wait, is that a thing?
Yeah, and they were, dude. The Bushwhackers were the sheep herders, and they were known for being like they were the most like bloody and violent.
I can see that. I can actually see that.
And then they were brought in and was like, they'll lick children's faces. Like, yeah, and it was just completely.
But what about the Road Warriors? Changing of makeup, yeah. Changing of shoulder pads, maybe, but like they never went away from what they were.
So it's tough to say, right? Because, and that's part of the conversation is, what do we consider a change? Like, okay, so right off the bat, you look at a guy like Glenn Jacobs, hard change, right? We're talking Isaac Yankem, Fake Diesel, Kane, very much
I'll never live that down.
Right, but very much a change.
Right.
So so we know that doesn't count. To me, what I'm looking at is more of there's two levels of not changing. And this is what I brought up to you over text about Triple H. Is if you're going, we'll say like in canon, right? Like in story. So like we're pretending these people are real people. They're not Paul Levesque playing Triple H. Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley is a real person, right? The Connecticut Blue Blood, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, who had those initial promos, I'm Hunter Hearst, all that stuff, never became another character. The game was Triple H, the King of Kings Triple H, the Authority Triple H was never a different character. It was an evolution of the Blue Blood Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
So then I'm on to something then with the Undertaker.
You are, because the Undertaker stayed as the Undertaker. He was the American Badass Undertaker, but it wasn't like the Undertaker's gone and now there's this guy. We're not going to acknowledge he was ever the Undertaker. He's the American Badass Mark Calloway. Like, no, like it was still the Undertaker. And I remember that one promo where he's like, just because I don't dress like the devil anymore doesn't mean he's not, in me, like all that stuff. Like, and then of course, he got buried and came back as a dead guy, as one does. And
it's
so
almost Easter, so yeah.
But like bread, he is risen. But I look at another one that's an example would be Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is part of the Midnight Rockers. Then he's part of the Rockers once he gets to WWE. So in some regards, he's even more Shawn Michaels than that, like, because he was Shawn Michaels before he even got there.
They spelled his name Sean when he first got in.
And they spelled Brett with 2 T's.
I'm
spelled heart wrong. That's more the people who are putting the lower thirds together.
Yeah.
But
it's like somebody now, like, who the fuck put
that was like no oversight. Yeah.
Right.
But but Shawn Michaels, part of the Rockers, but he didn't become a new character. Shawn Michaels all the way to Raw in the 2000s when he had his reunion with Marty Jannetty and came to the ring to the Rockers theme. He's Shawn Michaels. He just went through his own very, very well done. He went through his own transformation as a human being does. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, is because, like, I'm Josh Shernoff. I'm not the same guy I was in high school, but I'm not repackaged as a different, it's not like I changed my name several times.
Oh
so, like,
my God.
JD,
it's Josh Jernoff. My goodness. Look at that.
Like, that's, you know what I mean? So, like, that's that's what I mean. So there's Shawn Michaels. But what stands out to me with Triple H,
John Cena,
is again, John Cena, right? Randy Orton has changed a lot through who he was originally to the, Apex Predator and the Legend Killer time. And then, we heard the voices and all that stuff. That's a, no pun intended, evolution. My point with Triple H,
well done,
is I don't know that anyone has ever had so many distinctly different versions of the same character. Because the Blue Blood character started to change a little bit his attire once he joined DX, but he was still wearing the same, like, equestrian style gear when he was in DX. And it wasn't until Shawn left that he started wearing, that he changed it to wearing, like, it's more that, like, pleather style, tights with the
start game. 1, 2. Is this on?
But even before that, when it was just the DX music, and he had like those, like, think of SummerSlam with the purple, right?
Yeah.
That he wore.
Great.
But that style, but the H was still the H, the Hunter Hearst Helmsley H. On the side, it was with the swords going through, and that was still his logo from Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And then from there, it became, the longer tights, where it was just like the silver and black, like the stripe, and just had the H in the middle. And then he got rid of the long ones and just literally started wearing just the short ones that went on top of that. And that was it.
And was that the longer bikers?
No, God, that was the time when he, like, injured his groin.
Yeah, that was bad. That was a bad period for him. Like, I was like, dude, what is he wearing?
He was off the he was off the sauce, so to speak. But so to me, though, he evolved that character all the time, but was always Triple H. And I just don't know that anyone else has a start and finish. And then you look at several different middles where you can go, it's the same character. Evolution Triple H does not look like DX Triple H. Triple H does.
I got one that has changed a lot since his WWE debut. That hasn't changed his name, but an evolution of the process, because he has 15 monikers. That's Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was the architect, and now he's the visionary, and now he's this, and now he's the Joker, and now he's that. Like, but it's always been Seth Rollins. He's just evolving that character. This one.
No, he definitely. Yes, I agree. At the same time, I don't see him as. I mean, if you looked at a picture of debuting Seth Rollins or NXT champion Seth Rollins and current Seth Rollins, you'd be like, oh man, he's changed. But that's not the same as looking at Hunter Hearst Helmsley and a picture of Triple H from his final WrestleMania match.
Roman?
You know what I'm saying? Like
Roman
still hasn't changed in the same way as Triple H because Roman,
trying to challenge
in
you
some
here.
ways, Roman is more like he was initially in the Shield now than he was when they were doing the big dog thing and trying to make him something else, right?
The big dog?
Oh, that was great. CM Punk.
That's awesome. Oh, man.
But that's like, so to me, there's the different conversations. Like a CM Punk kind of falls into the Bret Hart thing of like, has more or less looked the same since he debuted. Now, of course, haircut difference and
I was gonna say that's
different tattoos and stuff like that. But I'm really talking about the character, the presentation of the character, because, and this is what I mean by that. Bret Hart in his last match could have come out to the same music he had in his first time having music. It was pretty much the same music, just had been redone,
Right.
CM Punk could come out to that Fire Burns or whatever it was called, right?
Love that
he
song, yeah.
debuted with. It was great. On the Gym Mix. But like, he could have come out, he could come out to that tomorrow and it still fits, right? Triple H, even now, Paul Levesque Triple H. I mean, ain't coming out to that. Dun, 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 dun. You know what I'm saying?
That's very true. Yeah.
And that's like that's kind of what I'm looking at. Shawn Michaels, even today, could come out to the Rockers theme because for the love of God, he comes out to the theme that he had after the Rockers. He's coming out to the same theme that he's had since I mean, I know he had it by WrestleMania 10. He may have still been using Sherry at WrestleMania 9.
I hated the
still
version, by the way.
No, this one's so much better.
But
which is so weird,
think
right?
about being in the studio in 96. Like, I think I'm like doing your own thing.
He's told the story where he was like, I don't sing. This is not going to be good. And Jimmy Hart's like, we got you. Don't worry.
Come on, baby. We're going to do this, baby.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. It's like, no, it's not. And then turns out that's also
But then you've got
people. You
people
see me doing that.
Then on the other side, you've got people like a Honky Tonk Man who has never changed. Ever. It's exactly the same.
He's still the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Last year at Squared Circle Expo, I sat next to him and I was
really?
like,
He's still around, like kicking at these expos?
And I was sitting he was at the booth next to us and sitting there. I'm just like, how's it going? I was like, good morning. And he's like, oh man, let me tell you what happened this morning.
He told me the
Starbucks.
And he just,
it launched into a diatribe that lasted like longer than some of the stage shows I hosted at the show. Like he was just all about how he was just screwed by this barista. Like it was.
Oh, you know what? I got one that I don't know if he's on brand with or on the level of Triple H, but somebody that started, had music, had a different look, converted, and now he converted again, and he converted. Bradshaw.
Oh,
right? Like that. Bradshaw started off as this Texas Haas, right? And then all of a sudden he went to, the APA, but he was still Bradshaw. That everybody knew him as Bradshaw. Then he goes into the rich man gimmick, still Bradshaw, JBL, I guess.
He's a good one. He's up there. Again, not on the same level as Triple H. And I say that in the sense that if he came out to his Justin Hawk Bradshaw theme,
nobody would fucking know.
You would but if he came out to that, like, which was actually an underrated theme, it was a good one. But if he came out to that,
APA,
look, there's another one. Sparky Plug, man, Bob Spark Plug Holly to Hardcore Holly. I mean, that's a guy who evolved and was always
but you know what sucks? It's too bad he's a douche.
Oh, just the drizzling shits. But yeah, just a terrible person. But Judge, hey, but I mean that only
this off the cuff,
only based on
stories,
how he is as a person.
Right.
So, but no, I mean, and look, there's always changes, and I stand, and yeah, it's not like Triple H is the only one to have evolved while maintaining the same character, right? The same, we'll say, like, he has the same driver's license for all different characters, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Rey
but
Mysterio? No.
has been exactly the same.
It
Yes.
has not changed at all, actually.
Well, his pants were baggy once. So look, I'm not saying that, because look, even Kane had a huge evolution as the Kane character. If you think of all the different levels of Kane, from amazing to horrible.
We were never given a true explanation to anything with Kane. It's like the whole story is that he was burned up in a fire, right?
Well,
And
then they
he's
made
like,
the thing that,
oh my
as it
God.
turned out, he had been healed all along, but the scars were mental. They were inside his head.
All here. Yeah.
He saw himself as a
bro. Do you remember when he first
hideous.
took that mask off? I was like, what?
Yeah. What am I looking at?
RVD was like, bro.
It's like, my God, he's hideous. Yeah. And you're like, oh no, that's Glenn.
Yeah. He just shaved his hair. Weird.
Yeah. But there's look, everybody has, an evolution of sorts. Honestly, I think Bret Hart might be the least evolved character.
Yeah.
Right?
Justin Carino.
What? There's
he's not gonna watch this, but no. That's hilarious.
We're trying, dude.
Oh man, I gotta tell you something off air, but it's very funny. But yeah, no, great topic nonetheless, because we're in WrestleMania season. We're seeing the pinnacle of somebody's character developments. Listen, I'm gonna tell you this right now, IWC, you internet wrestling marks. If you have one complaint about Jey Uso being in that spot right now,
oh man,
that promo the other night was
off is the direction in which you can fuck, because
dude, I was all in on that. Didn't come down to any yeet thing, didn't come down with any kind of merch, got in the ring, told Gunther, and by the way, if you looked at Gunther's face, he was just like, oh shit, what did I just wake up? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have poked this beast. Yeah,
like this dude, they're making him, guys, and if you don't see it, I don't know what to tell you. By the way, there's a clip on the Fight Factory Instagram that has gone viral. It's 125,000 views at this point. I believe it's maybe 130. It's all about Tommy Tequila, one of the guys on the show, saying that the next man to join The Rock is Jey Uso. Because
I saw that.
And I'm the more I think about it, the more this dude is willing to do whatever it takes to shut down Gunther. And boy, oh boy, would that be something else if all of a sudden
think about Travis Scott
thing. Yeah, we mentioned that Travis Scott, because he was like, who was the first guy Travis Scott came out with? I was like, oh, The Rock. And I caught myself. I was like, wait. And he's like, yeah, Jey Uso. They came down together and they were doing all the yeeting and the smoking the joints and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's something to monitor, something that we would all, for me as a fan, would embrace, right? Like I understand, like he's too new into the yeet thing where they can still say, you know what, we sold our shirts, we're good, let's turn you heel, right? It's a lot harder to do when you have a John Cena who's been selling merch and kissing babies and making wishes and shit. When like they turned him, it's like, oh my God, what are you doing, right? And it's working, by the way. I think the promos have spoke to themselves. He wasn't there last week, but it's going to be good. And like we said, as we wrap up this episode, we said that, or I at least mentioned that the favor for Paul Heyman was going to be as simple as being in the corner of CM Punk. And I think this leaves Roman Reigns very vulnerable. I saw a clip from our dear good friend Sam Roberts, who said everybody that Roman Reigns has gotten close to has turned on Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And he also points the blame at Roman Reigns. Like, they're turning on you because of you, Roman. Like, they're not doing it because they're trying to be mischievous, like just a jerk off. No, they're doing it because you've talked down to these people. You've kind of given your, I'm the tribe, I'm the guy, not you, I'm the guy. Think about the lineage. Seth Rollins did it first, right? And then think about Solo Sikoa and Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. they've all been talked down to over the course of the last couple of years. And they're like, you know what? The hell with this guy. Turn on him. So now we're kind of seeing that with Paul Heyman. And while they're still doubling down and saying, Paul's like, he's still my tribal chief. I love him to death, but this is just a favor for my best friend CM Punk. I like how they're playing this out. I do.
But I also saw a thing about how Paul Heyman turns on everybody. And he even turned on CM Punk back in the day.
Who's going to turn on who first, Josh? That's the question.
I think, and maybe you had said this before. I feel like you had said this before, but I'm starting to feel more and more and more like Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins are walking out together.
Yeah, because Seth needs something right now.
Yep.
Like our another dear good friend of the show, Dave LaGreca, said, like, does anybody else find Seth Rollins just annoying at this point? Like he's just like a gnat. He's just there, and he's just like always whining and right. And that's true because he doesn't have anything right now. But promo from last week, a lot. There's a lot to unpack in that. So
yeah,
look,
and we're gonna unpack all of that next week and the following week. We got 2 episodes left, folks, of season 2. Yeah, that's right. We do it like a television show here, also known as taking the summer off.
It's a busy summer.
We're getting busy and busy and busy. And the way that we can maintain doing this is by taking the breaks to be able to focus on the other projects that we're doing. We will be back. I have every single intention of us being back and better than ever because we've got a knack for making things better. But
anyway, nobody else got that except for us here at Three Shows, right? All of our top guys, let's go.
Yeah, they got it. They got it. Top guys.
Pretty sure all of them are named Josh at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, they changed their names in honor of me, and I appreciate that. Means the world.
What's your name? Dan, but I go by Josh now. It's like,
what's that great smell I've been smelling over here? What is that? Is that this?
Oh, the scent of sarcasm.
A little scent of sarcasm, Madcat Beard Care. It's not an ad, folks. Not an ad, but I do want to just mention. I do want to mention because this is, I don't make any money off of this, so it's not an ad. The Madcat Beard Care.
Why do you think the beard looks so goddamn good on my end?
That's
it, boys.
You got that premiere shit going on.
I got that premiere beard. Remember that? That fun time? All right. Well, listen. It's been another great episode. Josh, you're in the controls right now, so you would have to hit the old countdown guy. But,
I know, but we're only 57 minutes into the show. So
we're 1 minute away from our meeting. So we have to do with the guys that pay us to do our job. So
is that the case?
The wrestling hour is the wrestling 57 minutes this week, 58 minutes. We will give you that 2 minutes back next week, we promise, because we're going out on a high note. For Dave Sturchio and Josh Shernoff, enjoy the road to WrestleMania. We will cover it, predict it, do all the fun shit next week on the Wrestling Hour. Good night, everybody.